What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 2020 and part 2 of my 10 seasons of career mode videos. In part 1 we looked at seasons 1 to 5, and in this video we'll be going from season 6 all the way to the end in season 10. So yeah, let's just get straight back into it. If you want to watch the previous video, I would recommend watching that one before watching this one if you want to know what happened in those first 5 seasons. There will be a link in the description, but anyway, let's get going. So going into season 6, this is how the R&D chart looks. We've got Mercedes still up at the top, but then it's a very close group. Ferrari are actually second, followed by Renault, Red Bull and McLaren, all in that small little group. They're very close together. Then you've got a little bit of a gap down to AlphaTauri and Racing Point, a bit more of a gap to Williams, who are now ahead of Haas, and then Alfa Romeo at the bottom. I've already done the driver transfers coming from season 5 to season 6. That was at the end of the last video, so let's get straight into the rounds. Round 1 in Bahrain goes to Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, taking the win. Carlos Sainz, a very impressive second place here, and Pierre Gasly third on the podium, also with the fastest lap. You've got the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo in 4th place, and Max Verstappen only managing 5th in the Mercedes, with his teammate Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 9th. This actually puts Ferrari ahead of the constructors' standings for I think the first time in this whole career mode, with McLaren up in 2nd, Red Bull 3rd, Renault 4th, and Mercedes all the way down in 5th. Round 2, it goes to Max Verstappen. He does finally find his pace in the Mercedes this season, also getting the fastest lap. Charles Leclerc, though, hanging on there in 2nd place, with Alexander Albon 3rd, Lando Norris, the lead McLaren this time, in 4th, Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 11th, not even scoring any points. Charles Leclerc is still at the lead of the championship, leading Max Verstappen by 7 points, but he's now in 2nd and Alexander Albon in 3rd. Hamilton all the way in 12th. And then for the constructors, Ferrari stay at the top with a 23-point lead over Mercedes, who now make their way into 2nd. Round 3 in Spain, and Max Verstappen gets back-to-back wins. He wins the race with Alexander Albon in 2nd place, and George Russell gets his first ever podium in 3rd place for AlphaTauri. So with Daniel Kvyat also in 4th place, that AlphaTauri is looking like it's pretty quick. This boosts Max up to the top step of the Drivers' Championship, with Charles Leclerc in 2nd, Pierre Gasly moving his way up there in 4th, and George Russell in 6th. The constructors, well, it's still Ferrari at the top at the moment, but now there's only 2 points back to Mercedes in 2nd place, AlphaTauri moving up to 4th. Going on Monaco for round 4, George Russell wins his first ever race after getting his first ever podium in Spain. The next round, he wins the Monaco Grand Prix for AlphaTauri. So it's the first win for AlphaTauri and the first double podium for AlphaTauri, with Daniel Kvyat in 3rd place, split in the middle by Pierre Gasly in the Renault. So there is no Red Bull, no Mercedes, no Ferrari on this podium. It's 2 AlphaTauris and a Renault, so that is awesome to see. No real changes up the top. George Russell up into 4th place though. And this actually puts AlphaTauri up into the top spot in the constructors. They are now leading Ferrari and Red Bull by 3 points. Mercedes dropping all the way back to 4th after mainly Lewis is really not scoring any points at the moment. In Austria, it's another win for Max. It's a 2nd place for George Russell, keeping his podiums alive, and then 3rd place for Alexander Albon, with Daniel Kvyat in 4th. That AlphaTauri not just looking really strong in George Russell's eyes, but with Daniel Kvyat, he's also putting in some great performances too. This puts George up to 2nd in the championship, 20 points behind Verstappen. However, with Red Bull getting some more consistent finishes than Mercedes this season, moves them up into 2nd, Mercedes down to 3rd. Looking at the R&D halfway through the season, that top pack has closed up a hell of a lot. Mercedes still have a little bit of an edge up the front, but then they are right there with Renault, McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari, AlphaTauri and Racing Point. They're literally all in a mix. I mean, AlphaTauri on paper here is only the 6th fastest team, but they are, at the moment, generally like the 2nd fastest on track, so it's all super close at the top. For the Hungarian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc comes back for another victory here, with Max Verstappen in 2nd place, George Russell 3rd, Pierre Gasly doing great there in 4th as well, the 2 McLarens 6th and 7th for Norris and Sainz. Once again, Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 11th, I don't know what's happening with him. Not a whole lot of changes there at the top, other than Charles Leclerc moving up to 3rd. And Mercedes get back up to 2nd place in the constructors. Belgian Grand Prix, and Pierre Gasly takes a win here. It's been a little while since he's got a win, but he's been right up there, with Max Verstappen in 2nd, and Daniel Kvyat being the lead AlphaTauri this time, up in 3rd. George Russell all the way down in 8th this time. Once again, Hamilton, he's only in 10th, so he does at least pick up a point this time. This propels Pierre Gasly up to second in the championship, and it just shows how close things are because that drops George Russell down to fourth. And then a few little changes in the constructors. I'm pretty sure Mercedes were already second, but we've also got now Ferrari in third and Renault in fourth, Red Bull dropping down to fifth. However, once again, really close between really all of the top five. For the Russian Grand Prix, Lando Norris takes his first ever win in Formula 1 for McLaren. Awesome to see him up there. This is his first ever win and McLaren's first ever win in this career mode. Alexander Albon in second place and Pierre Gasly third. So Verstappen all the way down in sixth in this one. Lewis Hamilton, he's in 14th. You almost can't even see him on the board. No real changes here apart from Albon moving up to third and Charles Leclerc moving to fifth. And in the constructors, Red Bull moved from, I think, 5th to 2nd, Mercedes down to 3rd, Renault up to 4th, and Ferrari down to 5th. For the US Grand Prix, it's another win for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, doing a great job here. Second place goes to Alexander Albon, and it's a double podium for Red Bull, with Daniel Ricciardo, I think, getting his first podium for Red Bull in this career mode series here. He also gets the fastest lap. This puts Albon up to second, Leclerc up to third, and Gasly and George Russell drop down. And this then puts Red Bull back up into second. For the finale, we go to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen takes a win here, Charles Leclerc in second, and George Russell third. This solidifies the championship for Max, leading the championship, now winning it by 35 points to Albon in second, Leclerc in third, George Russell manages to get back up to fourth, Pierre Gasly fifth, Daniel Kvyat in sixth, Lando Norris gets up in seventh, with Daniel Ricciardo eighth, Esteban Ocon ninth, and Carlos Sainz rounding out the top 10. And as for the constructors, it's a win for AlphaTauri. So although Max Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship in the Mercedes, because of Lewis Hamilton scoring barely any points this season, AlphaTauri actually managed to win the Constructors' Championship, with Red Bull in second, Ferrari in third, and Mercedes are all the way down in fourth, which is crazy considering they've won the Drivers' Championship. Just shows you how bad Lewis Hamilton is doing. Renault in fifth, McLaren in sixth, then Racing Point seventh with only 2 points, and Haas, Williams, and Alfa Romeo at the bottom with 0. So going into Season 7, there would be one retirement. That would be Sergio Perez. He retires from Formula 1. That leaves a seat open at Renault, which Kevin Magnussen fills that seat. So he's moved from Haas to Alfa Romeo. And then Jack Aitken returns back to Formula 1 again after getting kicked by Red Bull in the last season or so. He returns, this time with Haas. Going into Season 7, this is how the R&D chart would look. As you can see, there was quite a few regulation changes which would plummet the teams down and actually bring them all very close to each other. I mean, they're all within about the same distance of each other. Mercedes still at the top, just edging out Red Bull, who are once again only just edging out Racing Point, with AlphaTauri also there, McLaren, Ferrari, Renault, Haas, Williams, and Alfa Romeo at the back. Round 1 in Australia would go to Max Verstappen with the fastest lap as well, Alexander Albon in second place, and then Lance Stroll getting his first podium, and I don't think it is the first podium for Racing Point, because I think Perez got one early on, but Lance Stroll's first podium in the Racing Point. That puts Mercedes at the top of the constructors, next to Red Bull, and then Racing Point. The Chinese Grand Prix would also go to Max, getting the fastest lap once again. Alexander Albon also once again in second place. However, it would be George Russell in third this time for AlphaTauri, with Daniel Ricciardo fourth and Daniel Kvyat fifth. This meant that Verstappen was at the top of the championship with maximum points, with Albon second and Russell third. And Mercedes would stay at the top of the constructors, next to Red Bull, then AlphaTauri would move up to third. At Azerbaijan, we'd have lots of new and exciting things. Lance Stroll would get his first ever victory in Formula 1, with his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi getting his first ever podium in the same race. It'd be a 1-2 for Racing Point, which is crazy considering how they've kind of been nowhere for the start of this season so far. And then George Russell would keep his consistency going with third place and the fastest lap. This boosts Lance Stroll right up into second place in the championship, with his teammate Giovinazzi up into sixth. And it would propel Racing Point up to second and AlphaTauri up to third, with Red Bull dropping down to fourth. In Canada, George Russell would get his first win of the season, and I'm pretty sure his second altogether. Lance Stroll keeping it strong in second place for his home race here, and Max Verstappen manages to cling on for third. However, it's Daniel Ricciardo in fifth who gets the fastest lap. In the driver's standings, George Russell is up to second place and only 11 points behind Max now, Daniel Ricciardo moving up to sixth. And in the Constructors, AlphaTauri re-overtake Racing Point for second. In the French Grand Prix, and George Russell makes it back-to-back victories, with Max Verstappen in second with the fastest lap, and it's a double podium again for AlphaTauri with Daniel Kvyat in third. This means that the gap at the top now, only 5 points between Max and George. And this great performance puts AlphaTauri at the top of the Constructors. Halfway through the season, and this is how the R&D's looking. Pretty similar. I mean, the cars, the teams have progressed with their R&D, but they've kind of stayed at a similar sort of point. Renault seem to have dropped down quite a bit, though. I mean, Haas have managed to overtake them for 6th place. So, yeah, not really, or 7th place, sorry, not really looking so good for Renault at the moment down there. In Italy, Max manages to get another win here and fastest lap, George Russell in second and Alexander Albon third. Not a whole lot of changes in the championship here, apart from Albon moving up to third. And in the Constructors, pretty much AlphaTauri just extend their lead. In Singapore, and it's another win for Daniel Ricciardo. Been a little while since he's got a win here. With the fastest lap as well, Lando Norris doing a great job there in second place with Lance Stroll in third, so none of the title contenders really in that top three. Lance Stroll, however, does get up to third place, so I mean, he's still in with a chance at the moment. And Red Bull managed to overtake Racing Point for third. Next, the Mexican Grand Prix, George Russell would take the victory with Max Verstappen in second place, Lando Norris doing really well again in third. Not really any big changes in the championship here. I'm pretty sure Albon... Oh no, I think Stroll did overtake him, so Albon re-overtakes Stroll again. And no changes at all in the Constructors. Now, between Singapore and Mexico, there was supposed to be the Japanese Grand Prix, but my game kind of crashed while I was loading it, and when I came back, it just kind of skipped it. So this is actually only a 9-round season, as Japan didn't happen. So we go into the finale in Brazil, and George Russell wins the race and gets the fastest lap as well. Alexander Albon in second and Max Verstappen in third. So Max was in the lead of the championship up until this point, but with George getting first place and the fastest lap and Verstappen down in third, this could really change things. And it really does. George Russell wins the Drivers' Championship with 4 points over Max Verstappen. He overtakes right at the last second. It's a great result from him. His first Drivers' Championship and the second in a row Constructors' Championship for AlphaTauri. So yeah, like I said, AlphaTauri, they were way ahead, 62 points ahead of Mercedes, with Red Bull in third, Racing Point fourth, McLaren in fifth, Renault taking over Ferrari for sixth, with Ferrari seventh, and then Haas, Alfa Romeo, and Williams at the bottom. And at the end of this season, well, it was about time that this was going to happen. Lewis Hamilton retired from Formula 1. He had an abysmal Season 6, and I think Season 7 was slightly better for him, but really didn't have a good Season 7 either. Was way behind his teammate Max Verstappen, and ultimately decided to hang in his towel at the end of Season 7. George Russell, after winning the title for AlphaTauri, his first ever title, would then move to Mercedes. So kind of the same as what Max Verstappen did. Verstappen won, I think it was in Season 4 with Red Bull, and then moved to Mercedes for Season 5. Russell's done the same thing here from AlphaTauri to Mercedes. And then Luca Giotto would take George Russell's seat at AlphaTauri. So going into Season 8, this is how the R&D looks. Red Bull now have the advantage in the R&D department, with Mercedes trailing a little bit in second. Racing Point and AlphaTauri pretty much on top of each other there, with McLaren, Renault and Ferrari close behind. And then you've got the usual big gap from Haas all the way down to Alfa Romeo. Round 1 in Bahrain would go to defending champion George Russell, this time in a Mercedes. So on his Mercedes debut, he wins the race, and it's a 1-2 for Mercedes, with Verstappen in second with the fastest lap, Daniel Ricciardo the lead, Red Bull in third. And then this is how the Constructors' Championship would look: Mercedes first, Red Bull second, and AlphaTauri third. Race 2 would be a 1-2 for Red Bull instead of Mercedes, with Alexander Albon taking the win, Daniel Ricciardo in second with the fastest lap, and then George Russell in third. Russell would keep the lead of the championship, but Albon would now be up to second, with Verstappen dropping down to fourth. And Red Bull would just about overtake in the Constructors' Championship, with McLaren also getting up to third and Renault getting up to fifth. The Dutch Grand Prix would be another win for Red Bull and Alexander Albon, with George Russell this time splitting the two Red Bulls in second place, Daniel Ricciardo in third, Verstappen down in fifth. That would put Albon into the lead of the Drivers' Championship with George Russell behind. And Red Bull would stay at the top of the Constructors' Championship. For the Spanish Grand Prix, it'll be Daniel Ricciardo's turn to get a win in the Red Bull this season, with Max Verstappen in second and Alexander Albon third, and then it could kind of be a checkerboard effect for Mercedes and Red Bull with George Russell fourth, the two McLarens of Sainz and Norris doing well in fifth and sixth. This would promote Daniel Ricciardo up to second place in the championship, overtaking George Russell. And nothing major would really happen in the Constructors. At Monaco, it'd be another win for Alexander Albon, really showing his pace here with fastest lap as well. George Russell in second and Daniel Ricciardo third. No massive changes here. Daniel Kvyat moves up to fifth, being now the lead AlphaTauri. And really all that happens here is Ferrari overtake Renault for 6th place. Alfa Romeo also overtake Williams for 9th, but they're both still on 0 points. At the Austrian Grand Prix, Daniel Ricciardo would take the win this time, but it would be another 1-2 for Red Bull, definitely showing their pace here and showing that Red Bull are possibly the better car at the moment. Max Verstappen, though, would come home in 3rd place with the fastest lap. George Russell did not have a good one this time, all the way down in 13th. And there wouldn't really be any changes in the championship apart from Luca Giotto overtaking Esteban Ocon. And the Constructors wouldn't change at all. For the British Grand Prix, George Russell's back in his hometown with the fastest lap as well as the win. Daniel Ricciardo second, and it's a double podium for Red Bull, a 2-3 with Alexander Albon at third. And then, the top 4 being Red Bull and Mercedes keeps going with Verstappen in 4th. Once again, not a whole lot of change here. Kevin Magnussen moves up to 10th, and that also means that Renault moved back up to 6th. Hungarian Grand Prix, and Lando Norris takes his second victory. Another very good drive from him for sure. Charles Leclerc in second place with the Ferrari. He's kind of been nowhere so far this season, but he's managed to get a podium here. And then George Russell in third place. Max Verstappen's all the way down in 7th this time. So, Daniel Ricciardo also in 13th. And the driver standings pretty much just puts Lando Norris up to 5th, overtaking his teammate. And Ferrari move up to 5th in the Constructors after Leclerc's very good drive. The Belgian Grand Prix, we have three different Constructors in the podium positions, which is awesome to see. Alexander Albon takes the win and the fastest lap, Max Verstappen in second, and Pierre Gasly back on the podium for third. It's all very close between George Russell and Daniel Ricciardo, with Russell overtaking Ricciardo for second place by only 1 point. Once again, not really a whole lot of change here, says Ferrari are up in 5th. And the Russian Grand Prix would be the finale for Season 8, George Russell would take the win and fastest lap, and it would be another 1-2 for Mercedes with Max Verstappen in second. Daniel Ricciardo would come home in third, with Alexander Albon in 4th. So how would this change the driver standings and who would win? Well, it'd actually be Alexander Albon that won here, and looking at the points, he may have already won beforehand, because he was down in 4th and still managed to beat Russell by 23 points. Russell in second, Daniel Ricciardo third, Max Verstappen comes home in 4th, with Daniel Kvyat a very good 5th, Lando Norris 6th, Carlos Sainz 7th, Lance Stroll in 8th, Charles Leclerc 9th, and Pierre Gasly getting 10th. And in the Constructors, it'd be a decent win for Red Bull, leading Mercedes by 39 points, followed by McLaren, AlphaTauri in 4th, Racing Point get up to 5th at the last second and push Ferrari down to 6th, with Renault in 7th, and then Haas, Alfa Romeo, and Williams at the bottom. As for driver retirements and transfers, well, there'd be no retirement to the end of this season. However, there would be a kind of single driver transfer. Roman Grosjean would move to AlphaTauri. That team seems to be doing very well at the moment, and I don't think they were too happy with how Luca Giotto was doing, so Luca Giotto gets moved to Haas. It's pretty much just a straight swap between the two. We head on to the penultimate season with Season 9. Here are the R&D chart. Red Bull still at the top, followed by Mercedes, AlphaTauri now up in 3rd, Racing Point 4th, McLaren, Renault, Ferrari, Williams, Haas, and Alfa Romeo. Round 1 in Austria would go to Max Verstappen, also with the fastest lap. Daniel Ricciardo up in 2nd, Lando Norris in 3rd for a great podium for him. And this is how the constructors' standings would look so far. The Chinese Grand Prix was a 1-2 for Red Bull, with Alexander Albon first with fastest lap, Daniel Ricciardo second, George Russell third, and then you'd have Max Verstappen in 4th, with Lando Norris still doing very well in 5th, beating his teammate who's all the way down in 11th. And this would put Albon up to 3rd in the championship. Red Bull would take the Constructors' Championship lead, with Mercedes in 2nd and McLaren still hanging on to 3rd. Azerbaijan would be another 1-2 for Red Bull. Once again, Alexander Albon winning the race, Daniel Ricciardo in 2nd, and Max Verstappen 3rd. So we've got the exact same podium as the last race. This would propel Alexander Albon into the lead of the championship, swapping with Verstappen, who would drop to third, and Red Bull extend their lead in the championship. French Grand Prix, it'll be the exact same podium again. Albon first, Ricciardo second this time with the fastest lap, and Verstappen third. Charles Leclerc would be up in fourth, George Russell all the way down in 12th this time. And there were no real changes at the top. As for the constructors, Ferrari move up to fourth, and AlphaTauri and Renault move down a slot. The Singapore Grand Prix, it was the same 1-2 for Red Bull, Albon in the lead, Ricciardo second. However, this time it would be Esteban Ocon in the Ferrari in third place with the fastest lap. Verstappen drops to fourth place in the Mercedes, and George Russell in seventh. Nicholas Latifi doing a great job there in the Alfa Romeo in eighth, and I think my character, David Jackson, gets into the top 14 that you can see on the screen for the first time in 13th place, so I guess that's something. Not a whole lot of big changes up the top there. You've got Charles Leclerc and Esteban Ocon moving up the order. You've also got Nicholas Latifi, who's now got some points and is in the top 14. And for the constructors, Ferrari move up to third place, McLaren drop to fourth, Renault up to fifth. Halfway through the season, and this is how it's looking. The Honda-powered cars are victorious at the moment. Red Bull have a massive margin over AlphaTauri to then Mercedes. Mercedes are all the way down in third and are actually only just hanging on to that spot with Racing Point, McLaren and Ferrari all very close behind. But yeah, Red Bull is kind of in a league on its own at the moment, and we've seen that with how the results have been so far. And once again, it's a win for Red Bull. This time it's Daniel Ricciardo taking the fastest lap in the Japanese Grand Prix. Kevin Magnussen gets his maiden podium in this career mode in second place for Renault, and Alexander Albon in third place. The Mercedes are kind of nowhere here, with Verstappen down in 8th and Russell down in 11th. Russell especially not having a good season after winning the championship 2 seasons ago. That great second place finish puts Kevin Magnussen up into 6th place, with his teammate Pierre Gasly only in 10th. And it moves Renault up to third in the constructors. In the United States, it's another 1-2 for Red Bull. Daniel Ricciardo taking the win and fastest lap, Albon in second, and George Russell back up there in third. This would actually now promote Daniel Ricciardo to the top of the driver standings, now beating his teammate Albon by 2 points, and the Mercedes almost 50 points behind. Renault would now be fourth in the Constructors' Championship. The Mexican Grand Prix, and Renault would find pace out of somewhere with a 1-2 finish. Pierre Gasly getting the win, Kevin Magnussen, his teammates, in second place, and then it would be Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari in third, so not a Mercedes or a Red Bull on the podium. You've got Max in fourth with Russell in sixth. The Red Bulls, don't know what happened to them there, because you've got Daniel Ricciardo down in 8th. Alexander Albon's in 11th, not scoring any points. That ultimately wouldn't really change the top of the championship though. The Mercedes close up a little bit, but Daniel Ricciardo kind of extends his lead a little bit further to Albon, and Charles Leclerc moves a bit further up the board. As for the constructors, not really any big changes here. Brazilian Grand Prix would also go to Pierre Gasly, taking the win in the fastest lap again here. Lando Norris does a solid in second place, and then Max Verstappen in third. Once again, George Russell, he's all the way down in 13th this time, and the Red Bulls seem to be lacking pace again here too, with Ricciardo once again in 8th and Albon 11th. Although the Red Bulls aren't doing so well, they're not really at too much of a threat by the Mercedes just yet, and there's only 1 round to go. And with Ricciardo scoring points and Albon not, he's now got a 10-point lead over his teammate going into the final round. And Renault, I'm pretty sure they already were, but they're now in third. And the finale in Abu Dhabi would be an interesting one, because Alexander Albon wins the race. He was 10 points behind Ricciardo going into this. Ricciardo's down in 7th, so I think Ricciardo has just thrown away his chance at a championship. George Russell comes home second with Verstappen in third, so it's a 2-3 double podium for Mercedes. And yeah, it's kind of the case. It's pretty much almost exactly flipped from what it was before this. Alexander Albon wins the championship. It's 2 championships in a row for him, beating his teammate by 9 points after Ricciardo had a 10-point lead over him before this race. Verstappen in third. Gasly gets himself up into 4th to split the 2 Mercedes, with George Russell getting 5th. Lando Norris does a solid coming in 6th, with Kevin Magnussen 7th, Charles Leclerc 8th, Daniel Kvyat in 9th, and Esteban Ocon 10th. And in the Constructors, it's a pretty clear win, even though there are struggles at the end of the season, for Red Bull, beating Mercedes by 99 points. You've then got McLaren in third, Renault in third, McLaren in fourth, Ferrari in fifth. They were all pretty damn close to each other, mainly McLaren and Ferrari. Then AlphaTauri sixth, Racing Point seventh, Alfa Romeo eighth, and Williams and Haas at the bottom in ninth and 10th with no points. And as for driver transfers, there'd be a pretty crazy one. George Russell would retire from Formula One. Yes, I am saying that. He's still not very old at this point, but I don't know, he just couldn't find a whole lot of pace compared to his teammate last season, and he decides to retire from the sport, so really, really sad to see him go. And that opens up a really weird thing, because Roman Grosjean takes his seat at Mercedes, which is crazy, because Grosjean has been in the AlphaTauri, I think, for the last couple of seasons, and hasn't really been doing that great compared to his teammate Kvyat, but now he's up in like the top team, the second top team, so pretty crazy there. Mick Schumacher enters F1 finally for the final season. He takes Grosjean's seat at AlphaTauri, and then Luca Giotto moves to Alfa Romeo to switch with my character, who moves to Haas because they would now be the lowest team. So here we go for the final season, season 10. This is how the R&D would look. It'd actually be really close at the top, but Racing Point would actually have the edge. They would be the top team, with Mercedes in second and Red Bull third. I mean, you can see with the lines there, they are all literally on top of each other. Then you've got Renault, McLaren, and Ferrari all completely on top of each other there. You've then got Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and Williams all completely on top of each other. And then Haas are a long way down the road. It's kind of crazy. I mean, they are still pretty close, but for AlphaTauri to drop that far, pretty crazy. Round 1 in Bahrain would go to Max Verstappen. He seemed to have a thing for winning the first race. Pierre Gasly would come home in second with the fastest lap, and Daniel Ricciardo in third. And this is how the Constructors' title would look. Alexander Albon would take the victory in Vietnam for a 1-2 for Red Bull, with Daniel Ricciardo second, Max Verstappen in third with the fastest lap, Kevin Magnussen up there in fourth for Renault, with his teammate Gasly all the way down in 13th. And that would put Daniel Ricciardo up to second in the championship, with Albon third. And Red Bull would take over the championship after Grosjean has not had a great start to the season in Mercedes. Max Verstappen would win the Dutch Grand Prix in front of his home crowd for this final season, also taking the fastest lap. Charles Leclerc in second place, a great finish from him there, with Lando Norris in third. I mean, his teammate Sainz isn't even in the top 14, so I think he's done a solid job there. That puts Albon up to second place, dropping Ricciardo to third. Magnussen's now up to fourth, and Lance Stroll also doing pretty well there in fifth with his teammate sixth. And Red Bull would now be in second place. I don't know why it says they've moved up, because I'm pretty sure they were first before this. I don't know how this whole graphic thing, I don't know how this works. But yeah, you've got apparently a few changes there. The Spanish Grand Prix would see Verstappen win again, with Leclerc in second, and Grosjean finally showing some pace in third place, getting his first podium in Formula One. Well, at least his first podium of this career mode. No massive changes at the top. You've got Charles Leclerc up to fourth and Lando Norris up to fifth. And once again, I think these kind of titles are a bit weird, because it says that Mercedes are now up in first and Red Bull have dropped down to second, but pretty sure that's how it was anyway. You've got Renault third and Ferrari fourth. In Monaco, Verstappen would win again. He's dominating at the moment. I think out of these first, this is round 5. Out of these 5 rounds, he's only lost 1. He's won 4 out of 5 rounds. You've then got Pierre Gasly in second, and Antonio Giovinazzi getting back onto the podium in third. Grosjean, Verstappen's teammate, would be all the way down in 11th, with Nobuharu Matsushita quite notable here. He comes up in 10th place for Williams, scoring Williams' first point in this career mode. And in the driver standings, it'd be very close between the Red Bulls, with Ricciardo overtaking his teammate Albon by 1 point, Gasly up into 4th, and the 2 Racing Points also moving up the order. And there wouldn't be any changes in the constructors. However, almost every team has scored a point now. Haas is the only team to not have scored a point, so it's looking good for the season. And halfway through, this is how things are looking. Racing Point are still ahead, and they've actually got a bigger lead than they had before. Still not showing massive pace so far. I mean, they've had a couple of podiums, but haven't really challenged for a win this season yet. So be interesting to see if they can get a win at some point. And everybody else is literally right on top of each other all the way down. Ferrari, though, are the 9th fastest team. There's kind of a big group between Mercedes all the way down to Alfa Romeo. I mean, Alfa Romeo are showing some pace here. But yeah, you can see in the chart there, Ferrari, they're still close to the pack, but they've kind of drifted back a little bit, which is kind of crazy. So in the Canadian Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly takes the win with Daniel Ricciardo in second, Lance Stroll in third place. So Racing Point still looking good here, although I still think they should be challenging for victories here. Pierre Gasly then moves up to second place, but Max Verstappen has a 61-point lead of the championship. Racing Point move up to fourth in the standings. And finally, Racing Point is showing some of their pace, being the quickest team on the grid by a decent margin compared to everyone else. Lance Stroll wins the Austrian Grand Prix with the fastest lap as well. Max Verstappen comes home in second with Albon in third. Mick Schumacher almost getting his first podium there in fourth place for AlphaTauri, and that's pretty good. I mean, AlphaTauri are a decent way down the order in R&D and on points, so it's a good finish from him. Lance Stroll then moves up to third place in the driver standings, and that also moves Racing Point to third in the constructors. The British Grand Prix and Max Verstappen's back at the top with the fastest lap, Daniel Kvyat being the lead AlphaTauri this time, getting a second place podium, and then Alexander Albon in third with his teammate Ricciardo down in 8th, Grosjean down in 6th for Verstappen's teammate. And Alexander Albon would overtake Lance Stroll for third place in the driver standings, with not really a whole lot happening in the constructors. The penultimate round, Belgian Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly would take the victory here with Alexander Albon in second and Lance Stroll third. Verstappen still got a big lead over the championship, but he's only got fourth here. He has, however, got the fastest lap as well. And looking at the driver standings, well, Verstappen's in the lead by 71 points, so it's mathematically impossible for him to lose the championship now. So Verstappen will go ahead to claim what I believe will be his fourth championship of this career mode, which is pretty crazy. Gasly is in second with Albon third, Kevin Magnussen and Mick Schumacher moving up to 7th and 8th respectively. And Renault would re-overtake Racing Point for third place, with AlphaTauri swapping with Ferrari for 5th. And the final race of this whole career mode would be the Italian Grand Prix, and Pierre Gasly makes it a back-to-back victory with the fastest lap as well. Daniel Kvyat in second place, and we've got another Racing Point on the podium, Antonio Giovinazzi in third, with a great result from Lance Stroll as well in fourth, Magnussen fifth. Verstappen's all the way down in 6th for the Mercedes, with the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo in 8th. Roman Grosjean is down in 10th, and Alexander Albon isn't even anywhere to be seen here. So the gap does kind of shrink down a bit for Verstappen there, but he still wins the championship by 53 points over Pierre Gasly in second. Alexander Albon would hang on to third, however it would be very, very close, 4 points between him and Lance Stroll in fourth. Bit of a gap back to Daniel Ricciardo in fifth with Antonio Giovinazzi sixth. Daniel Kvyat would get himself up to 7th, overtaking Kevin Magnussen, who'd finish 8th, however they are on the exact same points. Lando Norris would finish 9th, and Mick Schumacher on his debut season, his first ever season, would finish in the top 10. And for the constructors, a relatively decent win for Mercedes with 230 points, with Renault managing to get second place at the last second, 37 points adrift. You've then got Red Bull in third place, Racing Point finish in fourth, AlphaTauri quite a way back in 5th with McLaren 6th, Ferrari 7th, Alfa Romeo in 8th, Williams in 9th with their single points, and Haas in 10th place with no points. So there we have it. That is all 10 seasons of F1 2020 driver career mode. I reckon I'm going to do a part 3 to this, going over every driver's stats, how many wins they got, how many points they scored over a whole season, podiums, if they didn't get on the podium, what was their best finish, if they didn't win but got podiums, what was their best finish, all these different statistics, seeing how everybody did. So if you are interested in that, please do let me know. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this video and the previous one if you watched that one too. Remember, if you haven't seen it and you've got to the end of this one, link is in the description for that video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.